By virtue of the powers vested in me, as Vice-Chancellor, I hereby constitute this congregation of the University of the Witwatersrand for the conferment of degrees and granting of diplomas and certificates. Welcome to this virtual year-end graduation ceremony. Greetings, students and graduates, parents and friends of the university, and guardians of those that are graduating today in this virtual ceremony. As you all know, ideally you would all have been here, but given where we are with regards to this current cycle of waves, we thought it best to do it virtually in line with our COVID safety protocols. However, I'm honored to be addressing you today on the occasion of your graduation from this prestigious university, one of the top 1% in the world. Your commitment and persistence has paid off. You are now part of a group of illustrious vets equipped with world-class education, second to none, that will undoubtedly open many doors to you. For almost 100 years, this university has nurtured intellectuals and innovators, scientists and researchers, some of whom have gone on to win several global renown and prizes, including Nobel Prizes. Some have gone on to make great discoveries and originate and solve original problems. We have produced problem posers and problem solvers, activists and artists, critical thinkers and thought leaders who punch above their weight in the world. Today you've become a member of this illustrious class. Because of the effort and with the support of those that were behind you, have given you, you are now equipped with the necessary academic, research, and professional education to reshape your future and the future of your family, our country, our continent, and the world. Coupled with the skills, both hard and soft, that you've learned outside the classrooms, the networks you've developed, your curiosity and your desire to change the world for the better, you now have what it takes to be a good leader you were always meant to be. A Vetsi at heart and a Vetsi indeed. You are our future leaders, and you present hope in these troubled times for us all. Vetsis have had a disproportionate impact on our world. Working with you and through you, you have stayed true to our mission focus of the 3 core areas as Wits transitions into its next century. Developing excellent graduates who leave their mark on society. Secondly, conducting world-class research and fostering innovation. And finally, using your location, our location in the economic heartland of Africa to lead from the global south. These 3 pillars will need to be underpinned by a renowned commitment to the principles of Wits' core values. I urge you to hold dear the values of this great university as you journey through life. Some which you might remember are: remain curious and advance beyond your comfort zones. Ask questions of everyone and everything. Think critically and independently, and hold those in power to account. Value intellectual excellence. Be resilient and adaptable whilst being a socially active citizen. Celebrate the diversity of people, places, and ideas. Foster democracy and cherish humanity. This ceremony represents a fortuitous moment of hope and inspiration, an opportunity to chart a new course that can propel us into a new beneficial world order which will be good, for public good, for the good of all people, for the good of future generations, for the good of our country, our economy, and for the good of an inclusive community, for the advancement of our society. We will look to you to help us as we launch into our new century of existence next year. We will continue to harness our intellectual resources for good. We will continue to foster the development of excellent graduates who advance society, foster the creation of a research culture which contributes towards evidence-based solutions to all our global problems. We will continue to foster innovation and lead and use our location in Africa to lead from the global south. In closing, please allow me to once again congratulate you, your family, and your loved ones on your momentous achievement. This day is yours and represents the combination of your hard work and dedication and resilience over the years. Remember this moment, savor it, as graduation is an important milestone in your life that will change your life forever. Well done and Godspeed. Candidates will be presented for degrees, diplomas, and certificates in the 5 faculties: the Faculty of Commerce, Law and Management, the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, the Faculty of Health Sciences, the Faculty of Humanities, and the Faculty of Science. In terms of the statutes of the university, I confer degrees on the persons whose names appear in the graduation program.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I call upon the Dean of the Faculty of Science to present candidates for degrees, diplomas, and certificates.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, it is my pleasure to present candidates for degrees in the Faculty of Science. For this December ceremony, we are graduating a total of 37 PhD students. In addition, we are graduating students for the Master of Science degree, the Bachelor of Science Honours degree, and the Bachelor of Science degree. We are also awarding candidates the postgraduate diploma in scientific studies. To the graduates in the Faculty of Science for 2021, I want to say congratulations and well done. You have made it to the finish line under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. Each year, the highlight for our students, our parents, guardians, and loved ones is the WITS graduation ceremony held in this great hall, with all of the color and grandeur that is a part of the fabric of this university, and that has been experienced by previous generations over the past almost 100 years. Alas, the current circumstances have made it impossible for us to meet face to face. However, you should feel a great sense of accomplishment in graduating today. This is also an important occasion for our academics and the university staff. This, after all, is one of only a few occasions in the academic year when we pull on our full academic attire in all of its splendor. This gown reminds us about our commitment to the ideals of the university, to the principles and values that we must continue to aspire toward. Integrity, academic freedom, academic excellence, respect, tolerance, and compassion are only some of the values that we hold dear and that form the very foundations of this great university. Our academics and administrators work tirelessly to ensure that our WITS degrees are valuable and meaningful, and that we produce graduates who are not only academically qualified, but who are also educated more broadly about the world in which we live and the challenges that we face as a human nation. As university graduates, we have enormous responsibilities to work toward making this a better world for all. I don't believe that our degrees are simply a means for us to enrich ourselves narrowly, but to give back to society selflessly. And I hope that you will keep this in mind as you enter the wide world beyond. I would like to wish you all the very best in your lives ahead. There will be many challenges that you will encounter along the way. After climbing one hill, there will be more hills to climb. But of this I am sure, your WITS education will be a lifelong experience that will have grounded you well to enable you to reach your dreams and your goals. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis titled Interplay of Values in Classroom Teaching of Grade 9 Natural Sciences in 2 Gauteng schools in South Africa, supervised by Dr. T. Matabula, Professor E. Vurumuku, and Dr. S. Dukan. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Eyitayo Ajayi for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Study of Co-Doped Ceria-Carbonate Nanocomposite Electrolytes for Low-Temperature Solid Oxide Fuel Cells, and supervised by Professor C. Billing, Professor D. Billing, and Professor G. Wanbing. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Muhammad Arshad for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Arcane Paleoproterozoic Geochronometry of the Central Karst-Vaal Craton, South Africa, and supervised by Dr. G. Bybee and Professor R. Gibson. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Kimberly Beaton for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Manipulating and Measuring Quantum Ghosts and Randomness, supervised by Professor A. Forbes. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Nicholas Bornman for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Understanding the Speciation and Migration of Metal Pollutants in the Mining Impacted Klip River Wetland, Johannesburg, and supervised by Dr. Al Pillay and Professor M.S. Humphreys. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Shaheen Shetty for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For the thesis titled Full Run Tube Boosted Right-Handed Heavy Neutrino and Single Leptoquark Search in Atlas, and supervised by Professor D. Carr, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Lawrence Christopher for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Assessing the Effects of Wetland Conversion to Crop Farming on Wetland Loss, Water Quality, and Plant Foliar Nutrients in the Lower Mfuluzi Floodplain System, supervised by Professor E. Adam and Dr. J.G. Chirima, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Mandla Dlamini for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Development of Social Ecological Monitoring Framework to Improve River Health Assessment in the Lower Komati River, supervised by Professor M. Sampson, Professor C. Curtis, and Dr. G. O'Brien. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Vuisile Dlamini for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Mixing Processes in Rice Spaces and Their Ergodic Properties, supervised by Professor B. Watson and Dr. W. Kuo. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Jonathan Homan for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Learning Portable Symbolic Representations, supervised by Professor B. Rosman and Professor G. Konidaris. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Stephen James for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Mapping and Monitoring Urban Trees in the City of Johannesburg Using Remote Sensing Techniques, the Case of Randburg Municipal Area, supervised by Professor E. Adam, Professor M. Byrne, and Professor S.W. Nueta. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Simbarash Jumbo for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Acids, Bases, Threshold Concepts, a Case of First-Year Students' High Failure Rate and Dropout Rate, supervised by Dr. F. Otulaja. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Roida Kampamba for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Trimetallic Nanoparticles Immobilized in Polymeric Membranes for the Degradation of Organic Pollutants in Water, supervised by Professor N. Molotto and Dr. K. Sikwevelo and Dr. Jean Glovo. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting to you Masaku Khatle for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled A Remote Sensing-Based Approach for Detecting and Mapping the Accumulation of Heavy Metals in Phragmites, Australos, and Orodonax in wetlands influenced by gold mining, supervised by Professor E. Adam and Dr. S.W. Nueta. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Loveness Mabungu for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Rural Wetlands, Use and Sustainability, a Case Study of Zindi Area in Honda Valley, Zimbabwe, and supervised by Professor J. Knight. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Emma Mandishona for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For thesis titled Treatment of Parameter and Model Uncertainties through a Sensitivity Analysis of the Seismic Hazard for Johannesburg, and supervised by Professor R.J. Durheim and Dr. V. Midzi. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Brass Navy Manzunzu for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. for a thesis titled An Assessment of the Impacts of Climate Change, Variability and Land Use, Land Cover Changes on Surface Runoff in the Upper Zingwane Subcatchment, Zimbabwe, supervised by Professor S. Grab and Professor F. Engelbrecht. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Arthur Maviza for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled, Is there an association between genetic polymorphisms and immune responses to rotavirus vaccination in South African infants? And supervised by Dr. D. De Assis Rosa and Dr. M. Groom. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Tabiso Mia for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled, Micro to Macro Structural Investigations of Faulting in Deep South African Gold Mines, and supervised by Professor M. Manzi and Professor R.J. Durheim. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Siyanda Mgadi for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For the thesis titled Hierarchical Nitrogen-Doped Carbon Nanotube Carbon Nanofiber-Based Networks for Electrochemical Capacitors, and supervised by Dr. Z.N. Tetana and Dr. K. Ozumina. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Tapelo Mofokeng for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Synthesis of Pyrimidine, Thiazine, Diazepine, and quinoxaline derivatives via three-component reactions, and supervised by Professor M. L. Bodie and Professor Amy Koyanis. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Reagan Moshlala for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Synthesis of Chain-like Carbon Nanoonions for Application in Room Temperature Volatile Organic Chemical Gas Sensors, and supervised by Dr. M. Maubane Nkadimeng and Professor N.J. Kovel and Dr. M. Mamo. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Thomas Mongwe for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Urasan Quasimetric Spaces and supervised by Professor O. Olela Otefadu and Dr. W. B. Toko. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Kalusokoma Mukongu for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled A Genetic and Stable Isotope Interpretation of Behavior and Social Structure in Pale-Winged Starling Onychognathus naborope, and supervised by Dr. J. Mollett, Dr. P. DeMeyer, and Dr. C. Symes. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Nadira Munshi for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, also the Inkaba Biotech Award winner. For a thesis titled Assessing the Role of Learning Systems in Supporting Local Government Climate Change Adaptation, and supervised by Professor C. Fugel and Dr. K. Kotzer Hanak. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Miriam Muramba Dora for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled, A Study of Quaternary Semiconducting Chalcogenide Nanomaterials for Applications as Counter-Electrodes, and supervised by Professor N. Molotto. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Grace Ngubeni for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled, Characterizing the Impact of African Elephant on Woody Vegetation in Venetia Limpopo Nature Reserve and Using Remote Sensing Techniques, and supervised by Professor E. Adam, Dr. A.S. Barrett, and Professor L.R. Brown. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Selina Nkosi for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled, The Use of Photochemical Reactions and Bio-Based Starting Materials for the Synthesis of Nitrogen and Oxygen Heterocycles, and supervised by Professor C.B. de Kooning, Professor M.L. Bodie, and Professor K. Ngwira. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Sungesizwe Nsimango for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled, Towards the Formation of Somatic Embryos from Avocado Leaf Explants, and supervised by Professor D.J. Mycock. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Rebecca Oyerinde for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled, Diet, Activity and Body Temperature Patterns of Ground Pangolins in Semi-Arid Environment, and supervised by Professor A. Fuller and Professor F. Perini. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Wendy Panaino for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Functional Characterization of Resistance Gene Orthologs in Cassava using Gene Editing, and supervised by Professor Amy C. Ray. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Elelwani Ramulifo for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Interregion Non-Active Site Mutations in HIV-1 Subtype C Protease, Impact on Protein Dynamics, Stability, and Drug Binding, and supervised by Professor Y. Saeed. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Dean Sherry for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, also the award winner for the Shimadzu Top Achiever Prize. For a thesis titled On Members of Lucas Sequences, which are products of vectorials, supervised by Professor F. Luca. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Mark Sears for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Synthesis and Characterization of Bisalicyldiaminito chromium and cobalt complexes and the catalytic evaluation for the coupling of carbon dioxide and carbon disulfide with propylene oxide, and supervised by Dr. J. L. van Wyk. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Tsepo Tumeli for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Distribution and Bioaccumulation of Current Use Herbicides in Sediments and Biota from Lake St. Lucia, South Africa, and adjacent marine environments, and supervised by Professor M.S. Humphreys and Dr. Al Pillay. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Raymond Tayohemba for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Comparison of Mineralized and Unmineralized A-type granitic systems in Southern Africa, supervised by Professor P. Nex, Professor J. Kennedy, and Professor L.J. Robb. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Leonidas Vonopatis for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For a thesis titled Statistical and Deep Learning Methods in Causal Inference, and supervised by Dr. C. Shemedza. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Albert Watta for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Master of Science. Avrishka Bhagrathi. Duvrav Bhagwan with distinction. Vessel Bonnet with distinction. Jessica Burns. Matapelo Chwaka. Chigwanhira Faith. Blessing Chenamora. Belina Chuko. Ian Cluet. Esme Conradi. Beth Crankshaw. Mitchell Cuthbertson. Anna David. Booty Dlamini. Mpumelelo Dube. Tokababa Dube. Rosine Ibrahim. Inez Fall. Democracy Feni. Arthur Gogodu. Masimba Gona. Anna Guerra. Dumasina Kopia. Roy Gusina with distinction. And awarded prize for the best student tutors in computational and applied mathematics. Christopher Hodson with distinction. Mareka Horn with distinction. Lucian James. Devon Jarvis with distinction and awarded the Cybergate Computer Science Alumni Prize for the best student tutor. Mohammed Jassat. Olamide Jeje with distinction. Mpo Guadi. Nomonde Carlo with distinction. Mbali Kanyele. Gladness Koza. Nishe Kuverji with distinction. Evelt Lebese. Monique Leons with distinction. Zanile Mashimane. Zanildo Matungu with distinction. Nono Mashlaji. Vincent Makinta. Sylvester Manganye with distinction. Sabeta Mapetla. Rivoningo Mapanga with distinction. Daniel Marks with distinction. Clinton Masimola with distinction. Lesh Shlogo Nolo Mashego. Deboho Mashila. Humbelani Mashikwa. Vusani Masocha. Delani Matevula. Tabaseng Matika with distinction. Lindele Matiti. Deboho Matsoha. Ntutuko Bonambi. Kabisa Dekazi with distinction. Yongizele Mshlala. Jessica Minar with distinction. Shilabana Mkabela. Bungani Mkeshwa. Kamogelo Modisane. Jonah Moepi, Mapogo Molamo, Sakile Msibi, Lloyd Mtishi with distinction, Jennifer Murray, Nigel Musara, Rutendo Musinga, Megan Nair, Lungile Ntube, Ilekanyani Negwangwatini, Nokusho Ngubeni, Mpoetsi Nketsi, Tato Tigang, Alwande Nkumalo with distinction, Kudakwashe Nyamu Pangedengu, Rone Oberholzer with distinction, Sarah Oxley with distinction, Alexandra Pearson with distinction, Motipa Ramagoa, William Rich with distinction, Robin Scott, Iftikhar Sheikh with distinction, Natasha Shulubane with distinction, Pumalani Sitole, Hermione Slabart, Ian Stein, Meruli Tao with distinction, Aidan Chaparov with distinction, Kalieb Tesara with distinction, Godfrey Shehila with distinction, Rudzani Shibalo, Kalonji Sheshikedi with distinction, Jonathan Turner with distinction, Safia Turundu with distinction, Stephen van den Heever, Cody van Beek, Mohammed Variawa with distinction, Carl Beer, Marcia Velgus with distinction, Frederick Wolfart with distinction, Lehi Sekha Yingwani, Bachelor of Science Honours, Kwanele Trele, Kamohelo Deka, Venita Govender, Dylan Kramer, Tato Legodi, Innocentia Lelaka, Manshlapile Mamabolo, Simela Masango, Bafana Mbata with distinction, also awarded the School Prize for Achievement in Computational and Applied Mathematics. Hani Mbata, Seneliso Mbele, Tolubushle Mbune, Kutlawano Mokwene, Subasiso Mondlane, Shlagala Motapo, Kiebetswe Motsepe, Xavier Muhoni, Tristan Nagan with distinction, Tulebe Beshle Nglovu, Mufunwa Nemakondo, Mafaneza Nepawe, Nkosinati Kumalo, Sherilyn Pirbai, Patricia Rapseu, Sayuri Shiban, Nokwanda Shekshakane, Danielle van der Bijl, Bachelor of Science with Honours, Ayanda Mkiza. Bachelor of Science, Lunga Baker, Peter Duplessis, Thabo Ketima, Modi Soetsile Kushwana, Gomolemo Kuku, Pumla Kulani, Carl Lang, Offensa Legwete, Diketsang Mafetle, Mulungisi Majola, Ethan Milan, Kolani Masondo, Mohatsetsi Ngiba, Shia Mohapi, Rifense Mogodi, Constantinus Moshlomi, Karabo Mokwena, Shipang Motwang, Natefo Motupi, Tabiso Motlomi, Kolani Mti, Mulweli Mudau, Tendo Mukatuni, Moshlabane Murudili, Philly Sakashane, Ntati Sebetshele, Tumiso Tokwana, Matimo Twala, Alicet Twiggs, Andrew van der Riet, Nicholas von Buddenbrock, Tandile Voyia, Luazi Zama, Simpiwe Zulu, Postgraduate Diploma in Scientific Studies, Cyriline Nkube, Bongiwe Nzimande, Sayuri Sivan. Thank you.
Colleagues, graduates, and guests, this concludes the proceedings for today. And now, by the virtue of the power vested in me as Vice-Chancellor, I hereby dissolve this congregation of the University of the Witwatersrand. May the congregation rise.
Good day, Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, members of our esteemed senior executive team and academic staff, and a special greeting to our graduates and viewers joining us remotely for today's graduation ceremony. In no version of our world ever did I expect to be participating in a graduation ceremony in which our renowned Great Hall was not packed to the brim with graduates and their loved ones. Graduation is the culmination of your academic journey and a time to recognize and celebrate the enormous amount of hard work and dedication that you have invested into your education. It is exceptionally unfortunate that I cannot address you in person. With that being said, please feel free to leverage the power of technology and social media and post some pictures and videos of how you're celebrating your graduation with all COVID protocols in place. Do not forget to use the hashtag #WITSI4Life. My name is Stacey Lee Bolon, and I'm the president of the WITS Convocation Executive. Convocation is a body established officially under the university statutes to represent graduates of the university, as well as the registrar, full-time permanent members of the academic staff, professors emeriti, and retired staff. I would therefore like to take this opportunity to welcome you, WITS graduates, as the newest members of our convocation. You have now officially joined the ranks of some 200,000 members of WITS Convocation. Membership of Convocation is free and gives its members unique privileges, which includes, for example, nominating the Chancellor of the university. Our Convocation Executive mandates that the Convocation Exco discusses and states its opinion upon any matters relating to the university, including matters referred to it by Council, allowing for the views of this body to be represented at the highest levels of governance of the university. Convocation acts as an official channel, allowing members to convey to the university management their views about the university, and thus forms a vital link between the university and the global community in which it operates. This is, of course, of vital importance as the long-term reputation of our university impacts the value of the WITS degree in the market. Graduates, in your hand you hold the great gift of education. May I implore you to use your knowledge, your degree, to the best of your ability in pursuit of fulfilling your life's ambition. Today you enter the world as a graduate from one of the greatest universities on the African continent. You enter into a world filled with many challenges, but a world that is also filled with limitless possibilities. May you meet all the challenges and opportunities that await you with pride, drive, passion, innovation, social conscience, and positive purpose. Now that you are a WITS grad, please remain responsible. Whilst we certainly focus today's attention on our newest grads, it is also fitting to recognize those that have helped our grads through their academic career. Many of you have been supported financially, and it is likely that all of you have been supported with a great deal of encouragement. I would like to extend recognition to your loved ones, mums, dads, gogos, umkulus, and everyone else that has supported you through your academic journey. Please take the time to include and celebrate your achievement with those that have supported you. I would also like to spend a moment and extend thanks to the WITS academic team who have dedicated their time to teaching our future leaders. Thank you. Last night, you would have received an email to your student email address. Please ensure that you check this email and complete our graduate exit survey and provide us with your updated email details. This survey will take you about 5 minutes to complete and will assist in informing university policies and plans. I look forward to checking out social media to see how you're celebrating your graduation. #WITSI4Life. Please remain in contact with us, follow us on social media platforms, and join us for discussions, debates, and updates on LinkedIn. Wishing you the very best of luck in your future pursuits. We hope that you make us proud. And whatever you do, just remember, you got your edge at WITS.